Hello there. Right, so what we're doing is we are taking the back wheel off a AJS Model 16 350 and we're replacing the tyre and putting the wheel back on again. I won't be doing the tyre removal bit because I'd rather not pinch the tyres and I'll give that to a professional to do for me. But just to show you, you obviously need some special tools for doing any work on any old British motorcycle. So these are the special tools you're going to need for this job. You're going to need a 5/8 inch Whitworth spanner. You're going to need a 9/16 inch Whitworth spanner, and just docks out of sight briefly. You might need a 1/4 inch Whitworth spanner, and that's it. That's how many tools you need to change the back wheel on an AJS Model 16. Now, in order to do this by the side of the road or what have you, or you'd need to remove this section of mudguard here. That's this bit here, because you need to be able to get the back wheel out, and you won't be able to do that. The manual will also suggest that if you've got one of the later models, this is a 56M Model 16, that comes with a one-piece mudguard, which makes life very difficult. You're supposed to put blocks of wood under the centre stand. These are hefty enough to get onto the centre stand as it stands, as it goes, but if you try and do it with a block of wood, that's going to be all the more difficult. So, but what you have on this one, because this is a 56 model, is you can disconnect this part of the mudguard. It just takes these 5 1/4 inch Whitworth bolts, which need to be undone, and then you disconnect the wiring here from the back light, and you just pull the whole thing off. I didn't want to do that because it seems to be all fixed together quite nicely, and I do have an advantage in that I'm lucky enough to own a very nice ramp. And the thing about this ramp is you can, once you've got the bike on it, you can pull this board out and there's enough gap to drop the wheel down afterwards. This will cause a few issues later on trying to get the thing back up again, but actually getting it out like this is a lot easier than dismantling this part of the bike, which you don't really want to do if you can avoid it. So the first thing we need to do is undo this little nodule here, which is the speedometer drive. Takes a 5/16 Whitworth spanner, which is here, and you undo it just here. If you're lucky, you can untighten it by hand, because you don't really want to faff about under there with everything, and you need to get that cable off in order to get the wheel off. Okay, so now we're going to do the main wheel nut on the QD shaft. This is using a 9/16 Whitworth spanner. It'll be fairly simple. Just undo this bit. Here we go. When this comes off, the shaft should come straight out to the other side without too much faffing about. And off comes the nuts. Let's put that somewhere safe. Down here. We'll see what the dog can see the rabbit. Okay, now what we're going to do is going to take the shaft out. Now, in theory, this is just a question of pulling on the tommy bar, which on the end of the quick release thing, and it should just fall out. And look at that. Nice and simple. Look at that. Slides straight out. This is a lovely design. Off it comes. That's the shaft out, and there's the spacer, which I'm going to put back on the shaft, and I'm going to put the nut back on the shaft as well, just to make sure everything stays where it should. Now, in theory, what happens now is the whole thing should just pop straight off, and look at that, it just does. It just goes straight off like that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to remove the bolt, the wooden plate on the back of the ramp, so I can get the wheel off. So, here it comes. That's that. Now, my wheel is out. Right, we've got the wheel back from Kev at Dog Motorcycles. He's put the tyre on for me, and that's now got to go back on the hub. And if you look on this side here of the wheel, you can see these 5 studs, and they have to go into these 5 holes on the inside of the drum. Now the tricky bit is doing this one-handed, or two-handed, but single-handedly, because what you've got to do is get the wheel in place. Now I can slide the wheel in place here over the top. Alright, that now fits in there, but the question is how to get the wheel lined up correctly and the shaft through. So that's going to be the next tricky bit. The tricky bit here is getting the hub back onto the lugs. It's not as easy as you might think, because obviously you've got to line everything up properly before it'll go in place. So I'm just going to try and lift the wheel up. Now there we have it. It's now in place. Having said how tricky it was, it's all in place now. So I'm going to reinsert the shaft. This is the rear spindle. I'm going to put the spacer in first of all between the wheel and the speedometer drive. Plug it all in like so. Hold it in place and slide the shaft into the spacer. So if it's sharp enough pass through the spacer, so I just got to line up the shaft now. And look at that, slides straight in. Sorry, I've just blocked your view. Look at that, slides straight in. You just push it in place, push it up against the adjuster, and the job is done. So what I've got to do now is tighten the nut on the other side. Here's my nut, here's my washer, there's my nut on my washer, and my trusty 9/16 spanner to reassemble. I'm going to pop that on the other side now. There we go. Dead easy. So, it really couldn't be simpler. I'll just tighten the knot up. That's the nut tight. Just take it back a bit so the tommy bar doesn't stick out the back like that. Don't we want that? Just tuck that up here like that. And finally we just need to re-tighten up the speedometer drive. As you can see from where it was before, just slide it in. Ideally you want to be able to use your fingers on this because it's not exactly easy to get to. So if you can use your fingers as far as you possibly can, or if you're lucky to have a ratchet open-ended spanner, that'll do the job just as effectively. Otherwise you've got just fractions of an inch to do the tightening bit. So here's my trusty 5/16. Put it in there like so. As I say, not the most roomy bit to work on, but we're getting there. Slowly. Let's try and take it from the bottom a little bit. And there we are, all done. Wheels on, and the job's a good one.